Exposed. My son forgot his phone. And I discovered a hidden truth that changed everything forever. Sarah had always prided herself on her ability to juggle her demanding job as a nurse with raising her teenage son, Ethan. But tonight, as she returned from a grueling 12-hour shift, fatigue weighed heavily on her shoulders, wrapping her in a shroud of exhaustion. With a heart full of pride yet a mind racing with daunting responsibilities, she knew another long evening awaited her. The living room was a chaotic landscape of textbooks and forgotten shoes, remnants of their lives tangled in a web of homework and chores. Glancing around, her gaze fell on Ethan's phone, blue light flickering from the couch as it beckoned her closer. A small urge tugged at her, a protective instinct. She just meant to remind him to put it back in his backpack, but when she picked it up, curiosity gnawed at her gut. Scrolling through his messages, she faced an overwhelming tide of emotions. Excitement turned to fear as the texts materialized into a conversation between Ethan and Mr. Thompson, his teacher, a name she had heard in passing but never thought twice about. Praise overflowed in their exchanges, heartfelt confessions about school pressures and feelings of being overwhelmed. The facade of a confident, capable son crumbled beneath the weight of these revelations. What had she missed? How could her kind, bright Ethan be struggling so deeply without her knowing? But as she continued to read, dread enveloped her. Mr. Thompson's encouraging words twisted, taking turns toward something dangerously intimate. A chill crept through her veins as she felt a surge of protectiveness. Sarah's heart sank, clashing with a deep-rooted fear of failure, a fear that mirrored her own life, a life marred by scarcity. Did she foster ambition only for it to result in burdens she intended to shield him from? She was torn, caught between wanting to protect him and contemplating if her perception of his struggles was muddled by her own biases. The expectation of success weighed heavily while she wondered if those expectations stemmed from their socio-economic challenges. Suddenly, her world felt unmoored, and the comforting idea of a straightforward future began to fray. Before she could process further, the school's open house loomed. Setting her resolve, she decided to confront Mr. Thompson. As she stood in the crowded auditorium, anxiety wove through her like a chill, tightening with every step towards the front table. The air thickened as she caught the gaze of Mrs. Parker, the principal, a woman who seemed wholly disinterested in the struggles of students from families like hers. Sarah's voice trembled in her throat as adrenaline surged. What would she say? With each word that formed in her mind, she felt the tension mount, grappling with self-doubt and the sharp reality of the hurdles that lay ahead. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But back at the podium, just as she was about to unleash the whirlwind of her thoughts, her phone vibrated violently against her thigh. A message from Ethan flashed on the screen, pulling her focus back to the chaos. "Mom, I need you to trust me." The words shattered through her resolve, leaving her breathless and uncertain. The air grew dense with unanswered questions, and the weight of the moment hung heavy in the room. In that charged atmosphere, she stood at the precipice, wrestling with a choice that could unravel everything she had dedicated her life to preserving. The silence sharpened, the tension crackling like a live wire, trapping them all in a moment, pregnant with the unspoken truths of their lives, a confrontation drawing near, yet looming larger than she ever anticipated. Sarah's heart raced, every pulse a frantic reminder of the precarious balancing act she had undertaken as a mother and a caretaker. The fluorescent lights of the auditorium seemed to dim under the weight of her anxiety, each flickering bulb whispering doubts into her ear. Trust. What did that even mean now? The messages had opened a door she hadn't known existed, revealing shadows she couldn't quite grasp. Was it betrayal to question her son now? To probe into the darkness laid bare before her? A slight rustle drew her attention, and she realized Mrs. Parker was observing her with a keen, scrutinizing gaze. The tightness in Sarah's chest intensified, pushing her toward the edge of desperation. She could either shrink back into the darkness of denial or step boldly into the light of confrontation, ready to reveal the fears that had crystallized in her heart. "What is going on between you and my son?" she heard herself utter, the words slicing through the air like a knife. It surprised even her. How did she summon that strength amidst a torrent of vulnerability? The principal arched an eyebrow, unperturbed, yet clearly intrigued by this sudden assertiveness. "That's quite the accusation, Mrs. Andrews. It's inappropriate to assume—" "No, I'm tired of being pushed aside. Ethan is struggling and I need your help. It's not just about grades. I need to know he's safe." Each word spilled out in a rush, her voice breaking yet unyielding. Feeling the shift within herself, Sarah wondered if she was on the cusp of a transformation. She had often prioritized her son's needs over her own, blurring the lines between guidance and control. The message from Ethan had ignited an internal challenge, pushing her toward uncomfortable truths. She had shielded him from vulnerability, assuming it would keep him strong. But strength came from facing fears, from opening up. "Mrs. Andrews," Mrs. Parker replied, half in disbelief, half in irritation. "I assure you, we are doing everything possible to support our students. Perhaps it might be helpful if you—" "Helpful?" The indignation surged within her, waves crashing against the facade she had built over years of sacrifices. She thought of the countless nights spent waking at odd hours, managing both work and home while furthering her education. The weight she bore was palpable, yet she had never once asked for help. "Ethan needs more than just support," Sarah interrupted, drawing a few gazes from the attendees nearby. It felt odd being seen, especially when she had always felt invisible amid the demands of an unforgiving world. "Maybe I've been blind, but I refuse to remain ignorant any longer. If my son has found a confidant in you, I want to understand the context. I want to help him and myself navigate this together." Her determination solidified in an unexpected force, and for the first time, she felt an impudent sense of agency over her own life, no longer just a slew of sacrifices. Mrs. Parker's expression softened, catching Sarah off guard, a flicker of empathy perhaps. "Let's discuss this matter privately then." Yet, as they stepped aside, Sarah's mind raced. What had she revealed about herself in that moment? Was it courage or desperation that propelled her? She felt a brewing conflict inside her. She had always thought of herself as a dutiful mother, but now she grappled with the realization that she needed validation alongside motherly concern. What if she had been projecting her fears solely onto Ethan? Ethan's plea for trust echoed in her ears, a haunting reminder that, in some ways, she too was lost. There was a mystery to unravel, both of her son's struggles and her own journey. The principal's office loomed invitingly ahead, the door ajar as if beckoning her to delve deeper into unknown waters. Sarah paused, torn between the comfort of keeping her son close and the recognition that sometimes trusting meant allowing those you love to take their own paths. As she entered, Sarah resolved to confront the complex emotional truths awaiting them. But amid the swirling thoughts, a question flickered in her mind. What hidden truths awaited her discovery about herself? With that uncertainty, she took a step forward, ready to face whatever shadows lurked before her. She would not walk this road blindly. The moment of exposure had arrived, and with it, an intertwined journey that could redefine both her son's and her life. Inside the principal's office, the air felt thick with unspoken truths, and Sarah settled into the chair opposite Mrs. Parker, determined to confront whatever might come. The room, typically a sterile space of administrative duties, now transformed into an arena for pivotal revelations. Anxiety coursed through her, mingling with a surge of newfound resolve. "Mrs. Andrews," Mrs. Parker began, her tone formal, yet softened by the urgency of the moment. "I understand your concerns about Ethan, and I assure you we're equipped to handle—" "But that's precisely it," Sarah interrupted, her voice firmer than she felt. "We can't keep using the same phrases, the same assurances. I need to know what's genuinely happening. You must have something, anything, that can help me understand why Ethan is behaving this way." As Mrs. Parker's gaze settled on Sarah, the principal seemed to weigh her words with the gravity they carried. It struck Sarah that she had spent so long tiptoeing around issues that mattered most. The confines of motherhood had confined her spirit, forcing her to prioritize Ethan's journey at the expense of her own. "To be frank," Mrs. Parker said slowly, "Ethan has been quieter lately. Changes in behavior often stem from larger issues. It could be anything from academic pressure to personal matters he hasn't shared with anyone, including you." A pang of guilt washed over Sarah. How often had she been oblivious to the nuances of her son's life? In her desire to protect him, had she created an impenetrable wall that kept both their struggles hidden? This realization echoed painfully as she sought a way forward. "Do you think he feels he can't talk to me?" The question slipped out, raw with vulnerability. Perhaps the real fault lay not in her parenting, but in the walls she'd unknowingly erected around her son's emotional world. Mrs. Parker's expression softened further, framing the moment in a surprising tenderness. Children often feel pressure to meet expectations, especially when they see a parent juggling so much. It can create a disconnect. As if the universe were amplifying her revelations, Sarah felt an exhilarating rush of clarity. What if she had conditioned Ethan to equate vulnerability with weakness? Her own fear of inadequacy, of being seen as less capable or overburdened, had inadvertently shaped their relationship's dynamics. "I need to change this," she thought, her internal dialogue igniting a fire within. The weight of her realizations was heavy, yet liberating. The notion wasn't about simply being a strong mother, but about being a realistic one, imperfect and flawed, yet willing to embrace those imperfections. With a newfound clarity, a plan began to take root. What if I opened the door for Ethan? No more assuming I could protect him from struggles. Instead, I let him know our vulnerabilities could coexist. I have to show him that it's okay to be human. Suddenly, a thought struck her. She needed to take this a step further. This wasn't just about supporting Ethan. It was about redefining her narrative. If she needed to embody the change she wished to see in her son, maybe it was time to share her own burdens with him, to unmask the realities of her life. "Let's arrange a meeting," Sarah said with newfound conviction, her voice steady. "Not just with you, Mrs. Parker, but with Ethan as well. He needs to know he has my support, in every sense." Mrs. Parker nodded in agreement, admiration flickering behind her stern facade. "That's a strong step. I believe it will help him." Feeling a tremor of anticipation mixed with trepidation, Sarah wondered how this first open conversation would evolve. What truths would surface when she opened herself up? Would Ethan's defenses crumble, or would he retreat deeper into his shell? As she exited the office, Sarah felt the stirrings of courage reshaping her identity, not just as a mother, but as an individual willing to confront the layers of emotional complexity within herself. The journey was about more than her son. It was about rekindling her sense of self lost in the process of caregiving. And yet, even with this breakthrough, doubts lingered. Had she given Ethan enough room to express himself? Would he feel safe once they broached the subjects they had skirted around for so long? Determined to find out, Sarah prepared for the upcoming conversation, holding tightly to the belief that real connections flourished in vulnerability, both for her and Ethan. But as she reflected, a question loomed large. What if opening that door unveiled secrets she wasn't ready to confront? With that revelation hanging in the air, Sarah steeled herself for inevitable truths, both for Ethan and within the depths of her own heart. The real journey of understanding was just beginning. The sunlight dappled through the leaves of the oak trees lining the school's parking lot, casting a warm glow that felt almost deceptive, given the heaviness in Sarah's heart. Approaching Ethan's school, she grappled with a whirlwind of thoughts. Her intentions for the meeting, the stakes of true vulnerability, and the fear of unearthing secrets that could unravel their already fragile balance. As she entered the building, the buzz of students transitioning between periods enveloped her like a wash of familiarity, an echo of her own school days. It had always felt easy to fit into roles, to don the identities that life demanded: dutiful employee, nurturing mother, supportive friend. But now, each role seemed to splinter, a stark reminder of the person she once was, and the version of herself desperately seeking the light. She arrived at the designated room, her palms damp with nervous anticipation. Waiting for Ethan and Mrs. Parker, she noticed the walls adorned with student artwork, vibrant colors juxtaposed against the reality she faced. Here, kids poured their emotions onto canvas. Surely she could muster the strength to do the same. When Ethan arrived, his expression flickered with confusion and apprehension. Sarah's heart ached at the sight of him, her eyes darting to the floor where his sneakers scuffed against the tiles, a telltale sign of his unease. "Hey, buddy," she said softly, noting the way his body language recoiled from the warmth of her presence. Before she could speak again, Mrs. Parker ushered them into the room, her authoritative presence grounding yet intensifying the moment. Sarah took a seat beside Ethan, squeezing his hand unexpectedly, an instinctive gesture to bridge the emotional chasm she felt widening between them. "Thank you both for being here," Mrs. Parker began, her voice steady. "Today, we're here to talk through some of the challenges Ethan has been facing." Sarah's heart raced, every nerve raw with anticipation. "Ethan," she prompted gently, "I want you to know that I'm here for you. We're in this together." Silence hung thick in the room, punctuated only by the scratching of a pencil on paper from Mrs. Parker's notepad. Ethan's gaze flickered to the window where the trees moved lightly in the breeze before he finally turned to meet his mother's eyes. "I don't want to talk about it," he murmured, the words slipping from his lips like a plea. The words stung, but they also ignited an urge within Sarah, a fierce determination to break from the confines that her silence had imposed. "What if we changed that?" she proposed, her voice gaining strength. "What if we talked about the hard stuff? I've been afraid to, but I'm realizing it's okay for both of us to struggle." Ethan's expression shifted slightly, the guard around his heart wavering just enough for Sarah to see a glimmer of hope. "I don't know how," he started, trails of vulnerability emerging in his gaze. "Neither do I," Sarah admitted, voice trembling yet resolute. "But maybe we can figure it out together. I want to hear your thoughts. No judgment, just honesty." Mrs. Parker nodded in encouragement. "It's a brave step to start expressing feelings, Ethan. Many kids here face challenges that can feel isolating, but they're not alone." The conversation began to unfold, punctuated by hesitations and stuttering truths. Sarah poured out her own struggles, the pressures of work, the confusion of balancing her ambitions with motherhood, the feeling of inadequacy over choices made. Each revelation carved a pathway of connection, and in turn, Ethan began to open up, an exploration that unveiled his own worries and the burdens he carried silently. The exchange was both cathartic and excruciating. Sarah found strength in cruelty, facing the shadows she had cast over their relationship. With each shared story, she began to recognize the weight of unexamined expectations, both external and self-imposed. Then, without warning, Ethan's voice cracked through the room's tension. "I thought you'd never understand." That statement lingered in the air like an uninvited guest, prying open old wounds as Sarah braced herself for the truth. The time had come for confrontation, not just with Ethan, but with herself. Yet just as the moment hung upon the cusp of something transformational, a single question danced at the edge of Sarah's consciousness, demanding attention. What deeper truths resided in the shadows of their shared silence? And were they prepared to face them? As the conversation continued, Sarah realized they were both at a crossroads, and the next steps may lead them beyond mere understanding. Would they emerge whole, or would the weight of revelations threaten to pull them apart? Sarah's heart pounded in her chest, the weight of Ethan's admissions settling heavily between them like dense fog. Each word he had spoken cut through years of unvoiced fears, igniting the rawness of their vulnerabilities. She could sense the cracks forming in the fortresses they had each built, and the sting of those revelations pushed her towards a precipice, one that demanded she leap into the unknown with both faith and trepidation. Mrs. Parker shifted in her chair, keenly aware of the charged silence enveloping the room. "Ethan, you shared something very important just now. Can we dig deeper into that?" she asked, her tone encouraging yet probing. Sarah turned to her son, guarded yet hopeful. "Ethan, I want to understand how you feel that way. What makes you think I don't understand?" His eyes flickered bitterly. You're busy all the time. I feel like you don't really see me. You think your job is more important than me." The ache in Sarah's chest twisted like a knife. It had never been her intention to prioritize work over him, but she couldn't deny the truth in his words. Could she find value on both sides of this dichotomy? Was the perception Ethan held based on her real distractions, or merely a projection of his own fears? Taking a deep breath, she ventured, "I've been trying to balance my work and being your mom, but maybe I've lost sight of the most important part. You. It hurts to hear you feel that way, but it's also helping me see things more clearly." As she spoke, Sarah felt the resolve to confront her own truths growing. She had spent so long hiding under layers of obligations, masking her struggles to project strength. This moment demanded transparency. It was foundational for their journey. "What if we made an agreement, Ethan?" she proposed, her voice steadier than before. "What if we promised to remind each other about what's important, no matter how busy life gets? You let me know when I'm not there, and I'll make more effort to be present. Can we do that?" Ethan seemed to wrestle with the proposal, though the glimmer of understanding flickered in his expression. "I guess. But it's hard to change." "I get it," she replied softly, her heart expanding with the possibility of alignment. "Change is hard for everyone, but it's worth it, especially for each other." For the first time, she observed a slight nod from him, an acknowledgement that broke the barrier that had stood for far too long. Mrs. Parker interjected gently, "This is a great start, but I'd encourage both of you to put this plan into practice and check in regularly. Sometimes those little conversations are what help us grow." The exchange of glances between Sarah and Ethan held unspoken promises, and an unanticipated brood of hope began to bloom in her chest. It was delicate, yet vibrant, hinting at a new chapter untold, yet unfolding. As they wrapped up the session, Sarah felt a shift within herself, a burgeoning sense of agency that hadn't flickered in years. Taking responsibility for healing didn't mean absolving herself of guilt, nor ignoring the complexities of life. Instead, it was a step toward empowerment, a decision to reclaim the narrative of her relationship with Ethan. Walking through the hallways of the school, she pondered over the lessons learned. The weight of unexpressed thoughts had pressure-tested their bond, creating fissures that begged for attention. It was easy to mistake her ambition as a necessity, when deep down, it was a distraction from facing who she really was and what she truly wanted: to be a good mother. Yet, as she reflected, another wave of anxiety washed over her. Beyond today's breakthrough lay uncharted territory. What other truths lurked beneath the surface? What if her own unexamined trauma threatened to surface, and what skills did she possess to navigate it? The very thought sparked dread within her, making her pulse quicken. The shadows of doubt intertwined with her resolve, escalating the stakes of her personal development. Each moment with Ethan felt precarious, yet undeniably vital. As they reached the car, Sarah's phone vibrated, an incoming message from work. The urgency of it sent her spiraling back into the familiar realm of obligations and responsibilities. Just when she thought there was clarity, the pull of her professional demands loomed large. How would she maintain balance, ensuring commitment to her growth without slipping back into old patterns? A decision awaited her, a choice between redirecting her focus or surrendering to the familiar call of her career. With her heart racing, yet her mind sharpened by the day's revelations, Sarah realized the moment to confront herself required immediate action. Would she fully commit to change, despite the fears gnawing at the periphery? As the engine of the car hummed to life, Sarah inhaled deeply, ushering commitment to this new journey that lay ahead, one that would test her resilience like never before. The minutes that followed felt like an eternity. Sarah gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white as her mind raced through an array of what-ifs. The car's hum blended into a distant murmur, drowning out the nagging thoughts clamoring for her attention. Each ping of an incoming notification slowly chipped away at her resolve, drawing her back towards a world that seemed to dictate her every move. As she navigated the route home, an unexpected detour formed in her mind. A vivid recollection of Ethan's face during their session. The fierce emotion in his eyes, an ocean of unexpressed pain, emerged as both an anchor and a catalyst. This wasn't merely about him. This was an awakening within her, a poignant reminder that she could no longer afford to operate on autopilot. Rolling into the driveway, Sarah took a moment before stepping out of the car. What had once felt like an obligatory routine now held the potential for transformation. That heavier sigh escaped her lips as she gathered her thoughts, her heart clashing with her mind. She was more than just a title at work. She was a mother, a woman of countless aspirations, and a human navigating a path full of uncertainties. When she entered the house, she found Ethan sprawled on the couch, glued to his gaming console. Their connection hung in the air between them, an invisible thread of the fragile understanding they'd just begun to weave. The sight stung. Had their earlier breakthrough simply reinforced the walls while eliminating a door? Maybe, she thought, she had initiated change, but hadn't embodied it fully. "Hey, can we talk about our plan?" she asked, the words lace-knit with determination, yet tempered by vulnerability. Ethan paused his game and turned to her, the screen's glow reflecting his uncertainty. What about it? This moment could define the path they would forge. She had to address her hesitation, the lingering fear of confronting the discomfort that lay ahead. "I realize I've been lost in my own world, and I've asked you to tell me when I'm absent. But I think I also need to be honest about my struggles. I haven't been fully here either." "What do you mean?" His brow furrowed, curiosity mingling with skepticism. She took a deep breath. "We both want change, but I need to share how hard it is for me sometimes. Balancing everything feels overwhelming, and I need your patience. It's not that I don't love you or want to be there. I just feel lost sometimes." Their eyes locked, and she sensed a shift. The space they had created just moments ago expanded into a conversation filled with possibility. He shifted, absorbing her admission. "I get that," he replied slowly. "I just thought if you were around more, everything would be better." "I thought so too, but I'm realizing I need to be better for both of us. It's about growing together, not apart." With each revelation shared, Sarah felt herself shed layers of the formidable exterior she had wrapped around herself for so long. Every word danced between clarity and confusion. Would it be enough? What if her own journey revealed facets of herself she would rather leave buried? "Can we commit to these discussions?" Sarah proposed, her voice laced with sincerity. "Even if it gets uncomfortable, will you promise to share what you really feel? I want to understand you, Ethan." He nodded, but a flicker of apprehension crossed his face. "Sure, but what if we discover stuff we don't want to face?" "Then we face it together," she answered, her heart racing with the rolling wave of growing conviction. What we uncover could help us. It could break those barriers, or maybe it could even bring us closer. With that exchange, a pact formed, resonating deeper than the words spoken. But somewhere in Sarah's core, the unsettling truth persisted. What if Ethan's fears opened a floodgate of her own fears? The day ended with the weight of unfinished business pressing against Sarah's heart. A message from work pinged again, but this time she silenced her phone, choosing a path that promised uncertainty over comfort. The looming darkness of her past whispered more questions than answers. Each revelation brought the thrill of vulnerability and the dread of self-exposure. As the stars began to shine outside, casting soft light into the room, Sarah felt a blend of hope and fear. Was she prepared to unlock herself, to show Ethan the depths of her struggles? The moment of truth hung tantalizingly close, accompanied by the nagging reminder that authenticity comes at a cost. Her gaze wandered back toward Ethan, who had resumed his game, seemingly oblivious to the monumental shift that was taking place between them. Little did he know that the real game they would need to win was one of change and honesty, steeped in challenges that would redefine them both. Unowning every part of herself, she whispered inwardly, was she ready to wage that battle? The stakes had never felt higher, and the path ahead shimmered with both trepidation and possibility. It was time to dive deep, to confront not only what lay ahead, but what lay within. Suddenly, the next step materialized in her mind, a family dinner that could serve as the arena for furthering their newfound commitment. The idea was both liberating and terrifying, edging her further onto her journey of self-discovery and vulnerability. But could she muster the courage to catalyze that commitment into tangible action? With the dawn of tomorrow approaching, the question lingered. What transformative conversations lay in wait around their dinner table? The following day dawned with a crispness that felt strangely refreshing. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting delicate patterns on the kitchen table where Sarah sat, contemplating her next steps. Despite the comforting warmth of the sun, a chill lingered in the depth of her thoughts, until she saw Ethan come into the kitchen, groggy yet cheerful, as if the world outside hadn't shifted at all. "Morning, Mom!" He grinned, reaching for a box of cereal, completely unaware of the transformational conversations lurking just around the corner. "Morning, sweetheart. Big plans for today?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light, yet aware of the heavy anticipation lurking beneath the surface. He shrugged and poured his cereal, barely focusing on her words. As he dived back into his screen, the disconnection prickled at her nerves. Today was supposed to matter, but how could she make it resonate when he seemed so immersed in his digital world? "Ethan, I was thinking about our dinner tonight," she ventured. "I'd love for us to make it a special occasion, a chance to share more about what's on our minds." He looked up, eyebrows raised. "Special? Like how?" "A family dinner where we can talk about what we're really feeling. No distractions." She waited, gauging his reaction, hoping to ignite a spark of interest. He glanced back at his game, the screen illuminating his drooping eyes. "That sounds different, but okay. What do you want to talk about?" She hesitated, knowing the weight her words would carry. "Maybe we could start with how school has been for you? I know it's not easy." His face fell a fraction. "I'd rather just talk about fun stuff. School's boring." "Sometimes boring can open up deeper discussions, Ethan, like what's bothering you behind the boredom." The challenge was not just to convince him to participate, but to willingly journey into their shared vulnerability. The fear of how raw that conversation might turn made her want to retreat, yet she pressed on. "Why do you want to push me on this? You don't usually talk like this," he shot back, frowning. It was a challenge, and in it, she felt an unexpected flicker of pride. He was responding. "Because I care. I want us to connect, to understand each other better so we can support one another. Don't you want that too?" She saw him think, the wheels turning in a way they hadn't in ages. Perhaps the pact they formed was rippling outward, reaching him in ways he hadn't anticipated. "Okay, I guess, but only if you share too," he replied with sudden boldness, looking straight at her, demanding reciprocity. Sarah felt a knot tightening in her stomach. Would sharing her struggles push them further apart, or could honesty truly weave that connection she craved? "Deal," she managed, though her voice trembled slightly. As thrilling as this new commitment felt, she was haunted by shadows of her past failures, wary of baring her soul. Throughout the day, the possibility of failure cast a shadow over her planning. Could she summon the courage she needed to share the truth when the moment arrived? She found herself replaying old doubts, nagging questions surfacing in her mind. Were her experiences valid enough to share? Would they just cause Ethan more worry than trust? As night descended, the aroma of roasted chicken filled the air, mingling with the sour tang of anxiety in her heart. She set the table with careful precision, ensuring every detail was just right. A symbol of her commitment, but also a mask for the turmoil within. Ethan entered just as she placed the last fork down, and for a fleeting moment she saw his eyes widen with intrigue. Maybe a family dinner could become their sacred space, a sanctuary where they could shed the masks that life had forced them to wear. "Ready?" she asked apprehensively. "Yeah," he replied, though his tone belied hints of skepticism. The tension between them thrummed like a taut string, vibrating with potential. As the meal progressed, chit-chat peppered the air, but the impending conversations loomed large, both their true feelings and the secrets hidden under the surface of the dining table. Would tonight be the night that would either knit their lives into a stronger bond or unravel their tenuous connections? With each bite, her dread grew, and she felt the urgent tug of self-revelation on the horizon. Finally, Sarah chose to plunge into the depths where her authenticity resided. "Ethan, Just then, his phone buzzed loudly against the table, a reminder of the world outside that could easily drift them away from their intentions. He hesitated, glancing at her before answering the call, a flicker of frustration sparking in her chest. "Don't answer it, please," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let's fully be here, with each other." But as he swiped the screen, Sarah was left pondering the hidden truths waiting to be unearthed. Would they be ready to face what came next, even if the truth unveiled darkness she'd hidden for long? And just like that, she realized, it wasn't just a dinner about sharing, it was a battle for their very connection. Tonight could either build a bridge between them or reveal the chasms that had opened wide. As she watched him speak, her heart raced at the thought of the hidden truths she had yet to discover, both within herself and in Ethan. What else lay beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to be revealed? Ethan's voice faded into the background as Sarah's thoughts clashed within her. The tension in the room shifted. The aroma of the roasted chicken was overshadowed by the heaviness in her chest. She grappled with the sudden realization that this moment could be pivotal for both of them. Would she let fear chain her to silence, or would she summon the courage to dive into the depths of their connection? As he spoke animatedly into the phone, Sarah's mind raced with anxieties. What was she so afraid of? It was more than just disclosing personal struggles. It was about unmasking herself in front of the very person she yearned to understand better. Was vulnerability really the key to their bond? "Can you please hang up?" She surprised herself with the sudden intensity in her voice. The frustration poured out like a sudden rainstorm, raw and unapologetic. "We had plans, Ethan. This is important." He glanced at her, confusion dancing on his face, but then his eyes hardened, wrestling with her demand. "But it's just a distraction," she interjected, the gravity of her tone unmistakable. "I need you here, right now, with me. No interruptions." Ethan sighed, giving in to the pressure swirling between them. He hung up, placing the phone screen down on the table. The act felt monumental, as if he'd just opted for a life raft over a digital anchor. "Okay, I'm here," he said, his demeanor shifting slightly, but uncertainty still lurked in his gaze. "Thank you." Her heart surged with gratitude, mixed with trepidation. "There's something I need to tell you." She drew a shaky breath, torn between the desire for openness and the darker shadows of her past that clung to her words like ghosts. I've been struggling too, Ethan, not just with work or life in general. I feel like I've been lost, like I don't know how to be the parent you need. The words felt heavy, yet liberating. A vulnerability she hadn't revealed before slipped out. Her heart thudded against her ribs. What if he reacted poorly? He leaned back slightly, cautious but attentive. Lost how? The question hung in the air like a tightrope, daring her to walk the perilous path of honesty. Sarah's hands trembled as she fidgeted with the edge of her napkin, navigating the mire of her emotions. There have been moments where I simply felt overwhelmed, she confessed, swallowing the lump in her throat. Like I wasn't enough, like I was failing you by not being present, by not knowing how to communicate properly. Sometimes I wish I had the answers for both of us, but I don't. A flicker of something changed in his expression, curiosity or perhaps understanding. I figured you had everything sorted out. You seem so put together, Ethan replied, sounding almost bewildered. You never tell me when things bother you. Because I thought that showing weakness would only worry you more. The weight of her honesty washed over her, and the truth felt like uncharted territory. But now I realize that not sharing is what creates distance, and I'm sorry if I left you feeling alone. Ethan stared at her, processing her words with a maturity that surprised her. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if he saw her for who she truly was, a flawed human trying to navigate the complexities of parenting and life. I guess it's okay to feel that way, he finally said. I didn't know you were even struggling with anything. It makes me feel less alone, I guess. A wave of relief coursed through her, just as a new swell of fear began to rise again. Could this one moment inspire Ethan to open up, or would it backfire? The intensity of the revelation hung between them like a fragile balloon teetering on the edge of burst. I want us to be honest, to be real with each other, starting from tonight. No more pretending. This was the commitment she wanted them to seal, the pledge to share, to connect, to walk together in a space enveloped by mutual trust. His brow furrowed as he absorbed the weight of her intent. And what if the truth hurts? What if it changes everything? Then we face it together, she answered firmly, holding his gaze with determination that surprised even her. What's hidden can either divide us or strengthen our bond. Silence nestled between meal bites, thick with anticipation. This was the moment she realized that sharing burdens lightened their weight, that growth could stem from vulnerability, even if it felt volatile. As the conversation lingered, Sarah felt the embers of connection stoke within her, igniting hope. She wanted to share the burden of her fears with Ethan. She needed him to know he wasn't alone. Despite the fears clawing at her, she felt a flicker of resolve. With her heart racing, she prepared to delve deeper into her past, disclosing elements that could connect them in ways she never imagined. But before she could speak, a realization struck. What if, in revealing her own truths, she stumbled upon something even more profound about herself? As she opened her mouth to continue, the doorbell rang. A sudden distraction, but more importantly, an unwelcome halt to the momentum they were building. Her gaze darted toward Ethan, who too shared a look of irritation. What now? Let's see who that is, he suggested, a mix of relief and annoyance flickering over his features as he pushed back from the table. This could either fetch an unexpected visitor or close the door on an escalated intimate conversation. Was the universe conspiring to interrupt their progress? As she joined him in making their way to the door, Sarah felt a twist of anxiety knotted with curiosity. Would a new presence illuminate more truths or further complicate their burgeoning connection? The upcoming moments were crucial. Would the door open to the past, or to something that could shift everything she had come to know about herself and Ethan? As Sarah approached the door, her heart raced with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Ethan's presence beside her felt both reassuring and daunting, a silent echo of their unspoken pact to unearth the truths that lay beneath their surfaces. She inhaled deeply, drawing in the scent of roasted chicken that still lingered in the air, grounding herself as she reached for the doorknob. With a gentle push, the door swung open, revealing an unexpected visitor. The tall figure of an old acquaintance stood there, a reminder from a chapter in her life she had thought she left behind. It was Ava, a close friend from her college days, though they had drifted apart over time due to the relentless demands of adulthood and parenting. The wistful familiarity that washed over her was abruptly shadowed by the uncertainty of what Ava's presence might unearth. "Sarah, I didn't expect to see you here," Ava exclaimed, stepping into the threshold with a radiant smile that quickly faltered when she spotted Ethan. Ethan shifted slightly, his posture tense, as if he too felt the weight of the past creeping into the present. "Hey, Ava," he greeted, his voice a mixture of politeness and discomfort. "What brings you here?" Sarah asked, attempting to inject cheerfulness into the moment, even as the apprehension bubbled just below the surface. "Oh, just in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by. I've been meaning to catch up." Ava's gaze flitted between them, an inquisitive glimmer in her eyes that hinted at unanswered questions about their lives. As the small talk ensued, Sarah found herself grappling with the emotions that washed over her. This wasn't merely a chance encounter. It was a stir of unresolved feelings that flooded back. How many times had she questioned her choices since those carefree days, wondering if there was still a part of her worth reclaiming? As Ava recounted snippets of her life, career strides, travel adventures, and vibrant social gatherings, Sarah couldn't help but compare her own journey. Parental responsibilities had consumed her, leaving little room for spontaneity or the unrestrained joy of exploration. It felt like she was observing a reflection of the person she used to be, a version of herself that had dimmed but not extinguished. "I'm working on a big project at the moment, a documentary about motherhood," Ava continued, enthusiasm lighting up her features. "It's been a real journey of self-discovery, and I'd love to interview you for it. So many stories out there that need sharing." The suggestion struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. The idea of recounting her journey, her struggles and triumphs, was both daunting and liberating. Could this serve as a platform to articulate the very fears she had been struggling with in her conversation with Ethan? Would it allow her to step beyond the suffocating confines of her own insecurities and emerge not just as a parent, but as a woman reclaiming her narrative? "Me? Talk about motherhood?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. The prospect of such vulnerability sent tremors of excitement mixed with terror coursing through her. "Absolutely. Your story is powerful, authentic," Ava insisted, her gaze intense yet supportive. "Imagine the impact it could have on others who feel isolated in their struggles." Ethan's expression became serious, mirroring the internal conflict Sarah felt. This was the moment where her decision would be pivotal. Would she retreat into the safety of silence or seize this opportunity as a means of reclaiming her voice? "I'll think about it," she replied, wrestling with the swirl of possibilities. As they navigated this unexpected visit, layers of her identity, mother, friend, and woman, began to clash and converge. Could facing her past through Ava's lens offer her the clarity she sought? As Ava began to share stories from her own battles, Sarah felt an urgency to unearth her hidden truths, to confront the narratives she had kept tucked away. She wanted to put to rest the lingering doubts not just for herself, but for Ethan too. Just then, she glanced at Ethan, his eyes reflecting the same vulnerability she was beginning to embrace. What if this encounter provided the catalyst both of them needed to delve deeper into their own truths? They were standing at the brink of a revelation that could alter the very fabrics of their connection. Before Sarah could integrate her thoughts, Ava's phone buzzed piercingly in the quiet room. A notification illuminated her face, and the smile faded as disbelief crept in. "Oh no," she muttered, looking up with a mixture of anxiety and dread. "What is it?" Sarah asked, instinctively bracing for the worst. I forgot my phone at the last stop. I need to run back for it. I'll be right back, Ava said hastily, glancing between the two before stepping out and leaving the door ajar, an invitation suspended now in the air. The door lingered in its half-stigma, a threshold between their past life and the potential direction their futures could take. An unknown force loomed, waiting on the other side, one that could either unearth long-hidden aspirations or further disentangle the threads of their relationship. The atmosphere turned heavy once again as silence reigned. Sarah turned back to Ethan, the weight of the moment pressing heavily upon her. What awaited them when they dove into authenticity together? Would they discover solace or chaos in each other's truths? Their journey into vulnerability hung perilously on a delicate edge, steeling itself for the next turn. Would they have the courage to confront what awaited them when they finally embraced the unknown? Only time would tell. As Sarah sat at the kitchen table, her mind twisted with emotions, she felt the latent energy of transformation thrumming beneath her skin. Ethan remained by her side, the air between them thick with possibilities. She could sense how this unexpected visit from Ava had ignited something deeper inside her, a desire to rise above doubt and seize her narrative. Ava's absence felt like an opportunity. Sarah turned to Ethan, drawing on her newfound resolve. "Ethan," she began, her voice steadied by a mix of apprehension and determination. "Let's have that conversation we were aiming for. Now feels like the perfect time." His eyes widened, uncertainty glazing his expression. "You still want to talk? What if it gets complicated?" "Complicated is okay," she assured him, a small smile breaking through her nerves. "We've already stepped into the complexities of our relationship. Acknowledging them is the only way we can build a bridge together." In that moment, something shifted within Ethan. His body language softened, and the gridlock of emotions began to lift. "All right, let's try," he replied, his voice laced with cautious hope. "Start where you feel comfortable," she encouraged, her heart racing as she prepared to navigate the depths of not just his truths, but of her own as well. Ethan glanced down, aware of the weight of the moment. "I guess everything at school feels overwhelming right now," he admitted, retreating into his thoughts. "Everyone has expectations that just scare me. I've wanted to tell you, but I didn't want to add more to your plate." With every utterance, Sarah felt the invisible walls between them dissolve. Each disclosure meant an act of trust, pushing back the old fears that had sown a rift into their bond. "You're not a burden. When you don't speak up, it makes me feel like I'm failing you," she confessed, taking his hands in hers across the table. "Can you really not see how much I admire you?" Ethan's gaze locked onto hers, a fierce intensity radiating from him. "I always thought you had everything under control. It just felt like, if I showed my vulnerabilities, I'd drag you down too." Sarah's heart swelled with a mix of pride and sadness. For every moment she had shielded Ethan from her own complexities, she had inadvertently cast shadows on his vulnerabilities. "You showing your vulnerabilities doesn't make me weaker. It gives me the chance to support you, and in doing so, we both grow." Just then, Ava re-entered the kitchen, oblivious to the emotional turn the conversation had taken. "Sorry for the interruption. Ready for part 2? Her energy filled the room like sunlight breaking through clouds, illuminating the palpable tension. "Actually," Sarah interjected, her voice clearer now, "we're on the verge of something important here. Could we hold off on the project for a moment? This matters more." The surprise on Ava's face was evident, but there was also respect behind her eyes. "Of course. Go ahead. I'm all ears." Feeling emboldened, Sarah turned to face Ethan once more. "You're not alone in this, and I want to hear your thoughts. What's something you wish I understood better about what you go through?" Ethan inhaled sharply before speaking. "Sometimes I don't feel like I can talk to you about how I feel. I worry I'll disappoint you." The honesty stung, yet it was invigorating, channeling the mutual commitment they had just forged. I need you to know that your feelings are valid, and I'm here to listen. You're not disappointing me. You're sharing your truth. Ava observed silently, letting the conversation unfold, sensing the weight of their connection blossoming under the light of vulnerability. With a steady resolve, Sarah continued, "It's time we unravel these unspoken fears that seem to loom over us. I want to conquer these hurdles together. Building a foundation based on trust will only make us stronger." Ethan's brow furrowed in concentration, his walls steadily dissolving. "It's scary to be real, but I want to give it a shot," he declared, a newfound authenticity resonating in his tone. Now was the moment for both of them, a decision to embrace vulnerability and authenticity head-on. "Then let's make this pact official," Sarah proposed, her heart pounding with excitement. "Let's promise no more pretending. We'll share our struggles honestly, no matter how uncomfortable it gets." Ethan mirrored her sentiment, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. Ava's eyes sparkled with joyous appreciation as she watched them forge a path toward deeper connection. "What you both are doing, it's inspiring. This can become a powerful story." As they turned to face one another, the light in the kitchen now felt radiant, a harbor of understanding. The shadows of uncertainty began to dissolve, replaced by a commitment that transcended their fears. "Together," they said in unison, sealing their promise with laughter, the joy of their connection radiating like a beacon. With relief washing over Sarah, she realized they had bestowed upon themselves the gift of resilience. The moment felt triumphant, a decisive turn toward clarity and growth. They would not shy away from the complexities of life, but embrace them, entwining their journeys into one helix of love and understanding. And as Sarah looked at Ethan and Ava, she felt a profound sense of achievement. She had broken through her own barriers, conquering a challenge that once loomed insurmountable. The door to new beginnings had opened, and she could sense the future unfurling ahead, one where authenticity reigned supreme in their relationship. That evening, as the sun dipped beyond the horizon, Sarah felt a spark ignite within her, the kind of certainty that signaled a new chapter was beginning. Whatever lay beyond, she would face it head-on, transformed and resolute. Now was the time for action. What voice lay ahead for her to discover? Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe now to the channel to catch the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let it know you want more tales of personal growth. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. And don't forget to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformative journey. Your support matters immensely.